with Gina.
The news with Gina Grad.
Well, it's not the biggest shock ever that we have a new TV show host that has come down with coronavirus, because we knew that his wife had already come down with it, which was Ali Wentworth. George Stephanopoulos from Good Morning America has now revealed that he's tested positive for coronavirus. He says he feels good. He's not experienced any symptoms, and he will continue to work from home. He also added that his wife is recovering and has been fever-free for 5 days. He assumed that...
I knew Allie from, as you guys know, from the Groundlings
That's right.
million years ago. I mean, she must have been at the Groundlings the same time I was at the Groundlings. And I don't know, did she get hit hard? I didn't hear her story.
She got hit. I mean, like it says, she's been fever-free for 5 days. So it sounds like she got the typical symptoms, but I didn't hear any news that, she did. I didn't hear that she had gone to ICU or anything. She just went down with it.
So he's positive, but he's asymptomatic.
Yeah.
I think there's going to be a lot more of that. Also, you have to understand that when people are talking, like when they share their stories, they go, oh, it felt like a 200-pound man was sitting on my chest. I was obliterated, whatever. But if you think about every story I've ever told about having the flu, it's been like, oh, it was brutal. I couldn't sit up. I literally crawled to the bathroom and like that kind of stuff. And so the descriptions, which sound horrific for most people or a lot of people, if you picture yourself describing your worst flu or food poisoning or some version of that, probably sounds the same. Like I think about, last time I had the flu really badly was probably 2 years into Jimmy starting his new show. And Lynette was in Vegas, like a girls' weekend. And I was literally audibly groaning and laying in bed and like trying to negotiate opening a can of soup. And it was like it was brutal. And if I described it to you, it would sound horrific. But if I described it to you and I said it was the flu, you wouldn't be nearly as scared as if I said it was something else, because it was a horrific description. So she's on the mend and he has it. Now, I wonder if we'll find out, then we're going to find out, like, if it ever shows up with him, or does he get on something, or does he just quarantine? Like, so if you're positive and people say, I guess you could have it for 2 weeks before the symptoms pop up, does he do something about it?
Maybe I'm naive. Number one, how does he get a test if he's asymptomatic? I guess maybe because his wife had it. But either way, that's neither here nor there. He got the test and he's got it. Number two, I think I've been reading up on it, and I read that the hospitals will, for the most part, send you home to self-quarantine if you don't have symptoms. You know what I mean? If you're not experiencing shortness of breath or fever or whatever, like they're not going to accept you and treat you. They're going to send you home and say, come back if you get really sick. I think that's what I've read.
Gina's having a situation with a family member who's requiring some hospitalization and not connected to coronavirus, but so she's having to put us on hold for a moment and deal with some urgent family business. So Brian and I will cover during that period of time.
We'll make
Allie Wentworth, I'm probably met at the Groundlings in the later 80s. And
I don't know her.
She's an interesting personality.
Sorry for that great contribution.
Yeah.
I realized as I said, I'm like, oh, they really added a lot.
No. It's interesting that you brought that up. Nothing interesting about you or helpful, but what I'm saying is she's interesting in that there used to be celebrities back in the day when I would watch, game shows, or I would watch The Gong Show, and it'd be like J.P. Morgan or P.J. Morgan or whoever they were. They're a bunch of females, and you go, I don't know what they do other than their personalities. They're not really stand-ups. You don't really know them from an acting gig. They're just kind of personalities, and sometimes they're married to someone who's famous as well.
Right.
So
Would
Allie
Charo
Wentworth is
fall
sort
in
of that.
group?
Well, Charo.
How far are Allie and Charo on the personality scale?
Charo played music and was this crazy personality, Gucci, and all this stuff.
Right.
But I think she played a serious flamenco guitar.
Oh,
I think
the flamenco?
Flamenco guitar. Yes, I think she was quite an accomplished player.
That got lost in the annals of history.
She was all like tits and hair. Like if Gina could play the guitar.
Hold on.
Yes.
Okay.
But like, you know.
Oh, sure. Well, I'm putting it back.
competently. Yes. I don't know if I did match game with Allie Wentworth. I don't know what her claim to fame is, other than in a weird way, it's a bigger feather in your cap just to be a personality and not known from this series or that series, just
Right.
like literally she's just known.
But has that badge of honor gone away with the advent of reality shows? Like when Allie Wentworth was Allie Wentworth, yeah, but like you know what I'm saying, or Chara or whoever. Like now that it's reality shows, it's like, oh boy.
Probably.
Wait, sorry, you may have said this already, but wasn't Allie Wentworth on Living Color?
I'm looking at it now. Yes, in Living Color and Jerry Maguire, Office Space. I mean, it's not like It's not like she didn't do any. It's not like, oh, she worked at the Albertsons and now she's famous. Or we know, like, her name from something. It's just you don't. It's not. I don't know, Lena Dunham, or you go Lena Dunham. She did Girls. Like you just know her. You know her from that stuff. Chris Maxipata, can you find Charo playing serious guitar? And I could be just making that up from an episode of Love Boat, but I feel like she did. She wasn't all hoochie coochie. She could play, I think. All right. Anyway, sorry. What else you got, Gina?
Well, I know your kids were on board with Friends. I know everybody was sort of interested in this Friends reunion, but it's possibly not going to happen right now. This is the quote-unquote news from Deadline. It's one of two things. They're either secretly taping it via Zoom or it's just not happening until the quarantine over. So I'm not sure what the news is, but last month, HBO postponed taping that one-time special. An alternative date for next month now seems out of the question. Therefore, the reunion with all 6 actors won't be available when the HBO Max launches. That was the big deal, that they were launching the 236 episodes of Friends. But an unnamed insider claimed that Courtney Cox arranged a Zoom meeting for all the co-stars. Almost weekly, the 6 actors have discussed and brainstormed how they're going to do this. And according to the source, their Zoom sessions have been brilliant fun. There's some hilarious material.
I got it. All right, hold on a second. Those guys have already made the GDP of a medium-sized nation off this show. If they make another cool $2 million a pop and they're fucking sitting in their sweatpants at home with Zoom, I'm going to go ballistic. Like, this drives me insane. How much money can somebody make off of one goddamn franchise and now from home?
Yeah.
At this point.
Oh, Chris, sweet gig.
Chris has Charo playing the guitar. Let's see if if she's really accomplished at it. That's her, right?
Yeah. Aboard the Disney Magic.
Yeah, so she was accomplished. She just was all tits and hair and coochie, kind of interestingly hid her talent. And you can pause it. It's kind of interesting. We have pretty short memories. We don't have a lot of space on our hard drive to explore the nuances of everybody. And so if you present yourself as hoochie coochie girl with the big tits and the hair, then I guess that's how we're going to remember Charo, but she was probably great and is a great guitar player as well.
The one exception, the clock that's right twice a day, Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton.
Plays multiple instruments, wrote a million hits. So, Adam, I don't know if you heard about these dudes, but I'd be surprised if you didn't. A nearly nationwide lockdown has decreased traffic congestion by at least 50%. That's nationwide. And in some cities by more than 90%. And the situation is ripe for record-setting attempts at driving across the country, which these guys did. Last week.
Cannonball Run.
Yep.
Let me see. I think
they
were driving an Audi A8, so Mike August told me.
Correct.
And I guess it was 4 guys, and I guess they did it in 26:40 something.
They did. They broke the last record by like 45 minutes.
Right.
And raced from from Manhattan to the Redondo Beach Pier, essentially.
Right.
Many questions. Why Redondo Beach? Why not Manhattan to Manhattan Beach? Why Redondo Beach? That's an odd place to drive to.
Somebody started this a million years ago, and I don't know if it had anything to do with Hal Needham or Hal Needham just made the movie. Hal Needham would make all those Burt Reynolds movies. Hal Needham was a stunt coordinator who just kind of said, "Oh, fuck it, I'll be a stunt coordinator long enough," but he probably just saw how these movies were being made. Like everyone was just high on cocaine and doing what they wanted. And he was like, well, fuck it, I'll make movies. And so Hal Needham started making all these Cannonball Run movies and like Smoking the Bandit movies, and probably did like The Stuntman and stuff like that. And he didn't really have much of a script. He would just kind of hire, Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise and stuff and tell them to have at it.
Would you really need one? You have 2 girls in latex bodysuits and Burt Reynolds. What do you need?
Yeah, driving a Countach. So he would kind of preside over this stuff, and I think he may have had something to do with the founding of the Cannonball Run. But if you watch the first Cannonball Run movie from probably 77 or something, that just kind of lays it out. They just start in a warehouse in Manhattan and they drive to the pier.
Yeah.
And
guess how long? Yeah.
1981. Is that the first Cannonball? Yeah. And I guess they take the cars and they outfit them with auxiliary fuel tanks so they can.
Yeah, we have a picture. It's literally just, it looks like those big red plastic gas cans just lining their trunk. So
interesting.
I was going to ask you how that works. Is that just for storage, or is that actually feeding into the car?
It looks like it's feeding into the car, but I couldn't tell you for sure. And I guess there's like a sanctioning body, and they go for it. Now, the thing is, there's no traffic, but the cops are out in full effect. I mean, the cops are still out there writing tickets and going berserk.
Especially with crime down, 34% in a lot of areas. So these guys, guess how long, you might already know this, but guess how long it's supposed to take to drive from Manhattan to Redondo if you didn't stop and, stay in a motel a couple of days or whatever.
I don't know. Yeah, tell us. How long? 42
hours driving with the posted speed limit. But they averaged 105. So they made it in 26:38, and in California last month, apparently we wrote more than 500 citations for driving excess of 100 miles an hour. The most common response for people pulled over in the pandemic is, I thought cops weren't stopping people right now.
Well, it's funny. There's like nobody on the freeways, and the cops are putting this stuff out there where it's like, we're still writing tickets. It's still dangerous. I think people are going like 30% faster and whatever it is.
Well, and I told you they're cycling through more red lights now.
Oh, good.
No, bad.
Well, let me say this.
There's more of them.
Here's what I would say to LA. You guys have done a piss poor job of managing traffic, if you've managed it at all in my lifetime. And I have been subject to, hour, 20-minute commutes from like here to Century City or here to Santa Monica or here taking meetings and whatever. It is brutal, and it is not managed in any intelligent way at all. This has gone on for my entire adult life, and it will go on for the foreseeable future. There's one fucking window here. Could be 5 weeks, could be 9 weeks, could be 11 weeks. I don't know what it is, but it's a very small window where we can travel at a decent clip.
Mm-hmm.
Could you just give it to us?
Let's have this.
I'm not driving around seeing cars on fire and rolled over and wrecks or anything. People are just going about their business. They're just doing it at a little faster clip. That's all I'm saying. Well, nothing inherently dangerous. There's nobody on the fucking freeway.
And that's what you say. We should be able to drive at a speed that is safe for our circumstances. Is there a wall of water coming at us? No. Is there, nothing. For our circumstances, having 5 cars on the road as opposed to 500, we are driving safe for our circumstances.
Agreed. But they're never going to. Again, everything, just be careful. Be careful about the umbrella of safety and how broad that umbrella of safety can be, and about people doing things in the name of safety. They never talk about we need to raise revenues or we still need to collect money. It's like, it is unsafe to drive and be safe. 55, arrive alive. What the fuck? Click it or ticket, like everything in the name of safety. But is it all in the name of safety? And as we get safer as a culture and as a society, it just keeps growing, this umbrella of safety. Everyone falls in it. When you start having kids and the kid's like, well, the kids shouldn't come in at this time or they have to be dropped. That's like rules, safety, 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 safety. And then when you factor kids in, it becomes on steroids now. Now it's like super safety, super kids, super rules. And that's okay to a point. But at some point, if you're just pulling out of your driveway and you're literally just going to the corner to do something and come back around, you should kind of be able to decide whether your seatbelt is on or if your kid is buckled down 10 ways to Sunday in a child seat. Like, at some point, we're going to have to be in charge of ourselves a little bit.
Right.
And be careful about the safety umbrella expanding, because it's going to keep expanding. And it's like, everyone thinks, all right, self-quarantine or self-distance and all that kind of stuff, fine. But when you start hearing about, in Michigan, they're pulling over people that are driving and fining them for not wearing a mask in their car, like alone. You know what I mean? It's like, Be careful, everybody. It's a slippery safety slope, and it just keeps broadening. Yes,
it's
Brent.
Diabolical, because as long as you couch it as safety, nobody can disagree with it. You know what I mean? You have the moral high. You start with the moral high ground.
Well, see, it's an interesting thing that I was talking actually to Dr. Drew about earlier today, which is, I understand this safety expansion concept vis-a-vis the government and the city and the powers that be, because I've always built. And if you build, you have to pull permits. And every year, there's a new set of rules that comes in under the umbrella of safety, and it starts getting ludicrous at a certain point. You're like, are you nuts? That's insane what you guys are suggesting. Like, hey, man, we're an earthquake country. You know what I mean? So it's safety. Now, every single one, building and safety, the fucking name is in the title, building and safety department. The rules start off as, reasonable rules that have to do with construction and engineering. At a certain point, they start going so fucking far off the rails that is no longer about safety. It's about more rules and more regulation. And if you study building and safety and you see what they had in place in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, it's now at the point, I was just working on a project. It is insane overkill what they're asking for now in the name of safety.
Right.
So just be careful because it keeps going.
All you ever had to tell us was that they made you put a fence around a tree that's nowhere near your house. That's pretty much the only example we need.
The fucking tree was up on the side of the hill. A billy goat couldn't get there. And at a certain point, I just said, all right, how about some of that orange mesh plastic shit that I'll put up on some stakes or whatever? No, chain link. It needs to be chain link. I was like, you have to rent a chain link? You know how expensive it is? Hey, it's got to go. And by the way, it's not, or you could appeal it to our supervisor. It's like, you want your permit? Because you're not going to build on your own. You will not build on your own fucking property. We will shut you down if you do not comply. There's a safety, or there's a, I don't know, the oak, is it endangered species or something? There's more oak trees per capita where I live than any other place on the planet. I don't know how it works.
There's a city called Thousand Oaks, California.
I know. I'm the mayor of Million Oaks, California, where I live. If I walk from my house, I literally took a walk from my house to Mark Garrigas's house the other day. I was with my sister. We just took a walk around the neighborhood. At some point, I kept commenting that some streets have so many oak trees that there's a full canopy. It's like walking through a tunnel.
Yep.
Like you just don't even see daylight. But no, the answer is I must put chain link fences around all the oak trees on my property, or they will not, in the name of I don't know what. But the point is be careful, everybody. It doesn't, none of it falls under the heading of because we want more control and we want more money. It all falls under the heading of safety.
Right.
And then the rules come in. And nobody disagrees about safety. I do. I do think there's a point when you can start doing more harm than good under the umbrella of safety. All right, Gina, let's do one more, please.
All right. Well, I have the perfect one because I can imagine a lot of people are going through this. There's a new survey that since everyone's stuck at home and couples are together and, you know, couples are both working from home, a survey discovered that before the pandemic, half of working adults were clueless as to what their partner really does for a living. Now that we're all stuck at home, they're beginning to kind of learn, kind of suss it out. A survey spokesperson said, quote, "It's funny how many people knew so little about what the other half does for a living. Suddenly we're spending working hours and downtime in the same space. It's sure to be a learning curve for everyone, whether about job roles themselves or their partner's personality. Beforehand, we had just a vague notion of what the other person did from, you know, in working hours. For example, they have a lot of meetings or they're in an office, were the most common responses to what does your partner do for work?"
Well, let's see. I've gleaned waves to the Grubhub guy. Is that a gig or?
Is that on the clock?
Hello and goodbye.
Brian, do you have that? Joel McHale just reminded me that I went on that epic rant about the city and earthquake country and all that with Joel McHale. But Joel McHale was just on yesterday, and Joel McHale never did build the pool in his house. Joel McHale just moved at a certain point. Yeah. But do we have that rant? Maybe
I do not. We could maybe dig that up. Gio probably has that at his disposal. But, that was actually a fun fact. That was one of the drops, you screaming nothing, that was lost when some drops were mysteriously deleted from my computer over the holiday break. It's at KLSX.
At KLSX.
Ooh.
You know what was the weirdest thing as you look back on those KLSX days is how incredibly difficult it is to basically launch a morning show in a major market, and how we were ostensibly doing battle with the program director and the show that came after us in a constant, like, it's like basically like saying, we need you to run a marathon in under 2.5 hours. And you're like, okay, that's going to be tough. And then someone went, but there's a guy, he's a coach, and he's here to help. And he went, okay, because I'm going to need all the help I get to run this marathon in under 2.5 hours. And that guy took an ashtray filled with sand and just dumped it down your fucking shorts and said, okay, take off, run like the wind. And you went, what? I thought we're going to thought you were here to train me or help me or aid me. Something. No, I just dumped an ashtray filled with fucking sand and cigarette butts down your fucking underpants and then told you to get and smacked you on the ass. That's what essentially it was like doing a radio show with Jack Silver and Frosty hiding Frank after us, and Down syndrome dog or death dog.
Death dog.
All the people in the fucking building. It was.
You're saying there wasn't strong organizational support?
No, it was fucking hobbled by.
We're being sniped at every turn. It was ridiculous.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. We will try to run that crazy rant down, and we'll play it for you guys tomorrow. All right, Gina, let's bring it home.
You got it. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
Gina. That was the news with Gina Grad.